That fish taco was amazing. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. I know better than next time. I want cold water. Close the door. Over. We just tasted this, right? And this was taco. Miranda wanted to taste it, right? I wouldn't have tasted her. You take her home. No. Let me quit marriage.
We start around 7:25.
I think we'll be ready to maybe 7:20. That's when you guys.
We're gonna start members at 7:20.
Did everyone hear that? We're gonna start at 7:20.
And we go.
Jay.
This is what they said.
Ms. Shay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Fish taco with everything. I'm gonna follow them home and get that fish taco. Ooh.
No, we're gonna do it, is that but I can't go. Board members, it is now 7:20. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Shay, may I get a roll call vote to establish a quorum? Yes, we have Dr. Ron Elliott being Zoom.
Present.
Present.
Mario. Present. Dr. Coleman.
Present.
Ms. Ward.
Present.
Ms. Lane.
Here.
And Ms. Jackson. Here. Thank you. May I have a motion, members, to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda. I'd like to pull item H, the Little Bit Foundation, from the consent agenda.
Item H from the consent agenda. Thank you.
And I would like to ask that if the superintendent's report could be before the student rep report, as our student rep who is reporting today is running a little late.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes,
if it's under item for action, I would like to amend the agenda to have a approval of a workshop session to discuss training amongst the board.
thank you. We will add that to the agenda.
So I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I did not hear all board members. All in favor, please.
Aye.
We got, aye.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have patron participation. We have a Mr. Dan Wolf that would like to speak before the board. And as you come forward with Mr. Wolf, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. And what we do, thank you, what we do is we will not do a response to you here, but we will be more than happy to give you a written response.
Fairly common, and I'll probably only need about 1 minute.
All right.
So I'm Dan Wolf, and Madam President and members of the board. It's been great getting to know the administrators and the committee as part of the food service process. I work for Taher, and I have a handout I just wanted to give. I have 12 copies as required, and I just wanted to point out and ask the board to table the discussion on the food service until they can look into the financials a little more. Our bid saves the district about $208,000. In addition, we're a reputable company, has been around 42 years. We have a team that's ready to go. We're family owned, and so we don't have any corporate structure that dictates, what happens. We simply have our clients that tell us what they want, and we're ready to put together a customized program for this district. And so I just going to hand this to whoever I need to hand it to be passed out.
Secretary,
And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
thank you. We will now go to announcements.
I have an announcement. First, I would like to commend Dr. Joylyn Pruitt-Adams for the grace and tact in which she handled the television interview and her patience and understanding when addressing parents in the situation regarding the promotion ceremony. I've read the policies regarding promotion and graduation. Neither of them address criteria for participation regarding behavior and attendance. Therefore, I would like for the board to discuss modifying the language of the policy so that it includes the recommended criteria. However, I would like that after we have a discussion about restorative justice and restorative practice. I'd like to know what the criteria, was the criteria for the infractions. Is it quarterly? Is it by semester, or is it for the year? For example, if a student has an infraction in October, does that still count against him or her in May? So I'd like answers to those questions in an upcoming meeting, if we could add it to our agenda. Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there any additional announcements? Dr. May, before I move forward, do you have any announcements? Okay.
No.
I would like to, if I might, Dr. May, did you have an announcement?
No. Mm-mm.
I would like to seek guidance from the board, as Dr. May indicated, for a vote for a work session later. But I would like to petition the board to participate in ongoing governance development with the Normandy Collaborative under the umbrella of the Missouri School Board Association.
You need a motion on that now?
If the motion can come later, I just wanted to publicly ask. And then Dr. May asked that that be under the approval section.
Exactly. All right, thank you.
So there will be, instead of us having it on our own, we'll be having it with Norman.
Yes.
And what I wanted to, the announcement that I wanted to make is that I'm a part of the special school district governing council. I serve as vice chair of the governing council. And I wanted to publicly commend Riverview Gardens staff for the way that you treat the students who are our students. And I want to state that they are our students. They just received services from special school district. And I want to say that the staff of special school district gave Riverview Gardens of all of the school districts that work with special school district, they gave Riverview Gardens rave reviews. And so I just want to personally thank you all for that. It means a lot to me as a person with a child that has a disability. It goes a long way. And to hear some of the parents that from the SSD PAC Association talk about Riverview, yeah, look, you know, they did something for me. But I just wanted to personally thank you all for the way that they say you treat them. You treat them as equals, that they're part of the family. And I'm going to ask that you continue that. And there's some things down the pike that I'm going to be sharing with Dr. Pruitt Adams and you all as far as being more inclusive of other things as far as special school district students that receive services from special school district are concerned. So I just wanted to state that publicly. Okay, we will now move to, we'll allow you, Dr. Pruitt Adams, to make your superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Ismail Sistrunk first. We don't have Riverview Excellence on the agenda, but we do have two individuals that need to acknowledge.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board members, Dr. Pruitt Adams, colleagues, community, and scholars. First, I would like to ask Ms. Precious Berry to come up, our student board rep. And Ms. Berry brought this in. We didn't have Riverview Excellence because she just brought this to my attention today, but we definitely wanted to acknowledge this to the board. So Precious Berry, of course, is a recently graduated senior, one of our star students in Riverview Gardens, and is going to WashU on a full scholarship. But she got this proclamation from the city of Delwood. And so I want to read this and present this to her. It says, whereas the city of Delwood, Missouri takes great pride in recognizing our residents who have made significant contributions to our community. And whereas Precious Berry, a resident of Delwood and a graduating senior at Riverview Gardens High School, has proven herself to be an exceptional young woman of character, courage, and commitment, both academically and through her impressive activism. And whereas Ms. Berry, starting her career in politics at the tender age of 14, has used her voice to affect change in our community, motivating thousands of youth in the region to actively participate in the discussions of the issues faced by the young Black and Brown communities. And whereas through her activism, public speaking, her podcast show, Ms. Berry has emerged as a vibrant voice of Generation Z, empowering her peers, community members, and even politicians with her powerful messages. And whereas in addition to her activism, Precious has excelled in her academics, earning scholarships from the Rio Vista, Greater North County Chamber of Commerce, and Upsilon Omega Foundation, Upsilon Omega chapter of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, earning a place at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, where she plans to major in African American Studies and minor in Communications. And whereas as the student representative on the Board of Education for Riverview Gardens School District, Precious Berry works relentlessly for educational equality, continually inspiring her peers to dare to greatness, to find and pursue their passions and be the voice for the voiceless. And whereas Precious Berry is an extraordinary testament to the vitality, potential, and positive impact of our youth, and a shining example of the bright future of our community, Now, therefore, I, Reggie Jones, as mayor of the city of Delwood, Missouri, urge all citizens to join me in congratulating Precious Berry on her high school graduation and recognizing her outstanding accomplishments and wishing her every success in future endeavors. And that's signed by Mayor Reggie Jones.
Congratulations.
I guess Precious didn't have any words today. You don't have to. You don't have to. But yeah, Precious has done outstanding things, so we definitely wanted to recognize her. Secondly, I did want to introduce the new communication specialist to the board. That is a position that you all approved recently, and so I just wanted to make that introduction. So Ms. Ayana Flowers. She's over here. Miss Ayana Flowers is the new communication specialist. Ayana's been with the district since 2020.
Yeah.
Since 2020 as administrative assistant. And so now she's making the move to communication specialist.
Say a few words. Thank you all. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. I came from St. Louis Public Schools to Riverview. I'm so excited to be here. It's a family-oriented place, and I like working with each and every one of you. And I'm going to promote this district with all the good things that are going on. And I can't wait to work with Mr. Sistrom.
And that is all I have. I will say that Ayana is a very hard worker, a dedicated worker. And through that interview process, she stood out because she had great ideas. She brought in samples of work that she's done, and she's gotten glowing reviews from everybody that she's worked with here in the district. So I think it's a great hire. And thank you to the SAB.
Thank you. I got it. Just a couple of announcements, so bear with me. The first one is last week, Ms. Barbara Sharp and Ben Tilley and I presented the update on Solution Tree and our district's local assessment to the State Board of Education. The state has asked how can they help us even further. And so they asked me for a fund balance. Dr. Singleton has given me that, and I'm going to send it to them to see what happens. Also, I want to announce that last Thursday, I had the opportunity to be a part of a panel at Representative Marlene Terry Talks, which was held at Danforth Elementary School. Mayor-elect, she's already the mayor, I'm sorry, she's been sworn in, Mayor Tatman from Bell Fountain Neighbors was also a panelist. There was a good turnout and good discussion. There were representatives from St. Louis County Police, Riverview, Bell Fountain, St. Louis County, everybody, like I said, Ameren. There was a lot of people, and it was a really good discussion. And we had 3 board members who also were in attendance, Ms. Jackson, Ms. Lane, and Dr. Ava Elliott. So thank you for that. Summer school started today. Woohoo! As the board is aware, we extended summer school this year. By extending, we increased the numbers. And so we also are focused on ELA and math this year. Previously, it's been ELA, and we did tie it to our policy. We tied it to Senate Bill 319 on literacy, particularly at the elementary level. And then we tied it to the district's policy for promotion, retention, and acceleration. So I'm pleased to say we have increased numbers in summer school. There's a Juneteenth celebration coming up, sponsored by Councilwoman Shalonda Webb. And on Thursday, I get the opportunity to be part of a panel that will consist of Congressmen. There's several layers of the panel discussion. Congressman Cori Bush will be there, Senator Brian Williams, Reverend Chantel Nixon Clark, Chairwoman Shalonda Webb, Councilwoman Retta Days. Those are the 2 sponsoring it municipalities. Myself and Dr. Daddy from Hazelwood will be the 2 people speaking on education. There will be building principals, urban planners, law enforcement, community activist leaders, and mental health professionals. And the panel discussion will center around social, emotional, and mental health, and what police can do to learn when people are mentally distressed, what educators and police can do collaboratively to address the growing young people who are committing crimes, and how schools can also address mental health issues. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's just day one of many events. On day two, there's a community cleanup that will take place, and that's sponsored by Boeing and the St. Louis Urban League. And they're going to do some cleanup again of Castle Point. As you know, we did cleanup at Castle Point last year, and we kept saying we need to do this again. And so that will happen on Friday, June the 16th. And then on Friday the 16th, there will be a community viewing at the 24-1 Cinema in Page, and it will be Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. There are a total of 174 seats that are available. On day 3, there will be a Black History Trivia Showcase hosted by Bell Fountain Neighbors. And there will be a Juneteenth art contest, talent showcase, youth ambassador, partnering with the Panhellenic at HBCUs. There will be vendors and music. And you can find more information on the Bell Fountain Neighbors website. Also, the city of Ferguson on day 3, Saturday the 17th, will also be hosting a family fun zone. They will have businesses there, ribbon cutting, sunshine dancers, you name it, it's going to be happening. And then on day 4, Sunday, the 18th, there will be a Juneteenth celebration and worship service that will be at Shalom. That's on West Highway 67. My eyes are old. There will also be an event sponsored by the city of Florissant at St. Ferdinand Park. And then Monday, there will be a parade and everything by the Delwood. So this is all the communities coming together to celebrate Juneteenth. And so if you have lots of time in your calendar, they are also looking for volunteers for the movie night, to help with the setup for Bell Fountain Neighbors, the music festival. They're looking for volunteers for the parade in Delwood. So if anyone is interested in going out and helping with this Juneteenth celebration, please do so.
That information is on the website, so if you want details of it, go to the RGSD website. It has all the information.
And then last but certainly not least, we all know that Miss Monica Williams is retiring and she's leaving us. And the board tonight approved the position of her replacement. And so I would like to announce that Mr. Travis Ford will be the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I would just like to say, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence. And I'm excited to be able to make a bigger impact in the district and support the staff district-wide, especially around retention and filling vacancies. So I thank you for this opportunity.
We expect big things.
I believe you do.
That concludes the superintendent's announcements. Is our student rep? Okay. Francis is going to do our student rep report.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. JPA, SAB, colleagues, community, and well, I'm the student. Well, I don't have a report today, but I just want to first say thank you for the proclamation that Delwood Mayor Reggie Jones had presented to me last night. As a proud Riverview Gardens graduate and a proud Delwood resident, I'm just grateful and honored for that proclamation. And yes, congratulations to all the graduates of Riverview Gardens School District, from promoting to 5th grade to 6th grade, kindergarten, and the high school and the middle school as well. So congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.
One important that I wanted to make. On the 24th of this month, in the heart of Wellston, there will be an event called Black Wall Street. They're going to have a parade, and there will be booths They're going to be talking about different things that impact the community. I will be down there supporting their housing effort, representing my bank. But I just wanted to tell you, if you had some time on Saturday, to please stop by. They're going to have, and I'm embarrassed to say this, I might say his name wrong. I'm not a listener. Dougie Fresh. Is that right? Did I say that right? Okay, well, he's supposed to be in concert around 4 o'clock, but there are going to be various booths to empower people and what have you. And I think it starts at 11 o'clock. I'm not sure if that's when the parade starts, but I know 11 to 6. So just wanted to make sure that I shared that enough. Thank you.
Okay, our first item for information is the travel report. Making this report is Dr. Tiffany Patton. I think she's virtual. Dr. Patton?
She's having technical problems, so the sound is not coming through. Do you have a number to dial in? Maybe there's a number. Is there a number to dial in?
I can't understand you. What are you saying?
I got a message saying that there was technical difficulties. Dr. Patton, can you come through now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for bearing with me. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt Adams, and colleagues and community members. I have submitted for you the travel report for June 2023. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the information. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our second item is Priority Schools presentation for June 2023. Introducing the presentation is Ms. Barbara Sharp, Executive Director of Continuous Improvement and Title IX.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Superintendent Pruitt Adams, colleagues and members of the community, and certainly our student representative. Tonight, I have the privilege of introducing to you our principal leaders for priority schools at Danforth, Glasgow, and Moline Elementary School. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I have the best position, I think, in this district because I have an opportunity to work with great leaders. Tonight, they will present their site-based plans and progress to include their 30, 60, 90-day plans, various celebrations that they would like to share with you centered on their data, evidence of their improvement, and the next steps. At the conclusion of their presentations, we will take any questions that you may have. Principal Dominique Lenoir.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. JPA, colleagues, and constituents. My name is Dominique Lenoir, and we're going to talk about some of the great things that we've started over at Danforth Elementary. This is my first year as a principal in the elementary level and also at Danforth Elementary. We have slides, or just keep going. All right.
You have the clicker.
Oh, I got the clicker. Oh. It ain't moving. Go that way. There we go. Okay. So these are the members of our leadership team, which we call our guiding coalition. And some of those members have since moved on, so the names of some of the teachers will change. Our main priorities focus this year with our leadership discussions was to first work on the culture of the school and build a positive behavior intervention and supports framework. We did that. We also formed a PBIS committee, and through the committee, we planned different activities to support the positive behaviors. We had dances, pizza days, and different things like that to celebrate our students doing great things. Also, we talked about the profession. Well, we developed a professional a leadership team where we developed a professional learning community, and including weekly collaborative planning with the focus on the 4 critical questions: creation of end of unit common formative assessments, team-driven goal setting, and implementation of interventions and enrichments. And we did a lot where our teachers focused on looking at analyzing the data and making data-driven decisions. And our last one was to work on how do we present our lessons to our students and keep it simple and focus on the hook and just the activities and standard base and what we need to focus on our students. So some of the data that we celebrated was our goals were to lower our below basic category and increase our proficient in advanced. So if you look at the data sheet, you want to see the numbers go down in the below basic, and in the basic and proficient and advanced increase. We still have, if you look at the below basic, our numbers did go down, but when you look at the below basic and basic, our numbers are still high to where we want more students to be in a proficient and advanced. And so next year, our focus will be working on moving students to that advanced, all students to that proficient and advanced category. So our next steps. This year, when I started and got to Danforth, I didn't have any front office. I didn't have a secretary, a counselor, a homeschool coordinator, no one. So I hired everyone. We lost our instructional coach to a promotion to the high school as assistant principal. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the one thing that we're now ready is to prepare to hit the ground running. One thing, we are completely fully staffed. Knock it out. So we have every position filled with the right certified people. So that is a good thing. And we revamped the master schedule. The schedule will be more focused on providing those interventions and providing times for students to have more independent work and pullouts. We'll utilize our special teachers to pull out students to have those more drilled down work with them. One other thing that the last thing I would like to talk about is we're working to changing the culture, and I'm bringing in things as far as partnerships, and the big thing that I'm trying to bring in is the arts and the culture. This year we had iKarate, which the students loved. They couldn't wait for the day. That focused on the meditation, self-defense. But also next year, we're looking forward to bringing in Building Futures, where we'll focus on design projects and construction work. I have trying to build a partnership with Coca Performing Arts and bringing in dance, music, visual arts, and also esports. And then for our students that are struggling academically, having a Saturday school called Schoolhouse Rock, where it will focus on math and ELA interventions. So we're trying to build a culture of learning, but also build a culture of focusing on the whole child with the arts and entertainment, because if you can bring students' interest in to school through the arts, the attendance will rise and academics will grow. So the next slide is just some pictures of some things we've done. Kindness Week, STEM Week. We really keep track of our attendance and celebrate those attendance. To the left is the girls talk. We brought in some people to come in and have girls talk. And the trophy or award up to the side was an honor that the PTO bestowed on me. We really tried to work to build the strong PTO at Danforth. And I always believe as strong as your PTO is as strong as your school. So that's what we continue to do. So they were proud to honor me this year. And sometimes you got to toot your own horn. So thank you, and pass it on.
All right, good morning, board members, Dr. Pruitt Adams, colleagues and community members. I am Cassie Atlanta, the principal of Glasgow Elementary. So tonight I will be going over some of the work that we've done with Solution Tree and what we've been working on this school year. So just as many of the other schools have already discussed and talked about, one of the big things that we did when Solution Tree came in was we looked at changing from having a leadership team to a guiding coalition. And we looked at opening up the opportunities for other staff members throughout the building. I know in the past, it was a mindset to have one teacher from every grade level, the principal, maybe the coach, but looking at who are some of those other change agent people in the building. Our nurse, she's very active, the school counselor, making sure some of the instructional assistants and so forth were on the guiding coalition to help with some of the things that we were trying to implement throughout the school. So in doing that, we started with our 30, 60, 90-day plan. Coming in after we did our needs evaluation, we saw that we needed to really work hard instructionally with implementing the workshop model across math and ELA. We wanted to see some of the success happen throughout those scores moving. Then we needed to make sure that our teachers had professional development and that we were also going around and doing walks in classrooms and making sure that they were having effective instruction across those subject areas. All of our grade level teams worked together to unwrap the essential standards and identify what those essential standards were going to be for each grade level. We also identified a school-wide intervention block to help address the various needs of our students throughout the school. And then the collaborative team also worked together to come up with a method for us to learn the text that Solution Tree brought into the district, which is School Improvement for All. So the entire staff participated, SSD included, in a book study where once a month during our Late Start Wednesdays, they presented different chapters of the book. And it wasn't just me, it was the staff that presented the chapters of the book so that we can learn the different concepts that Solution Tree is trying to bring into the school. So going into what we're working on now, and I'm proud to say that we did accomplish all of those goals on the left with working with Solution Tree, we decided that we needed to move toward, of course, increasing our student scores, but we need to accept more accountability as a staff and work together more collaboratively, where it's not just the leader making all decisions in the building, but the staff looking at these are our students, this is our data, how are we going to accept accountability and move the school together. So with that being said, that we are working to establish a school-wide progress monitoring system that tracks our students' performance and data towards reaching our goals. I did quarterly state of Glasgow addresses where I would show them our data and how far we moved toward from the previous quarter to the next quarter with meeting our goals. So I've refined the master schedule. We're looking at maximizing the instructional time, making sure all of our staff, we have alignment, or all grade levels have alignment across the school building, with making sure that we're including those key components. And then we're looking at creating a progression guide, a chart with identified must-know skills for the next grade level. We did a lot of work with vertical teaming this year, and it was very important that we all sat down and did a lot of planning together. So in that planning, we were able to have the first grade teachers tell the kindergarten, I need your students to come into this grade level and I need them to know this, and so forth. So that was very powerful, and it wasn't just coming from Ms. Landa or our instructional coach, but coming from the staff. So some things to celebrate. I think we still have a lot, very far to go, but in looking at our data, some things that we were proud of, I really looked at building a strong K-2 foundation, because I feel like we continue to play catch up, and we got to start at the beginning and make sure that our students come in having what they need. So in doing that, we were fully certified with our K-2 staff. We did have some uncertified staff in grades 3 through 5, but like I said, we did a lot of collaborative planning together to make sure that we were all on the same page. One of the celebrations I have, kindergarten and first grade took the early literacy program. And with early literacy, it's not advanced or proficient, but the students are at or above the benchmark if they end up in the green. So with that being said, our kindergarten students, we had 38% of our students at or above the benchmark at the end of the school year. And first grade was able to move from, if you look at the below basic area, they have 48% of their students in the urgent intervention category, and they were able to move 40% to at or above the benchmark by the end of the year. So I think that's a huge celebration for them. Looking at our 3rd through 5th grade scholars, our 5th grade scholars, they were able to have at least move from 5% to 18% proficient by the end of the school year. We didn't see as much growth as I wanted to see in some of the other grade levels, but I was happy to see the decrease in the amount of students that were in the below basic area. So I know we only have up to go from here. So I know next school year we will be on a much better track. So with that being said, our next steps, we're looking at really starting the year with a lot of planning with our staff. We're looking to, when we come back, the Guiding Coalition, we want to make sure we look at our norms. Like I said, we want to start the school year working collaboratively. This is not just me helping create the goals for our school and moving them, but we're doing this as a team. So we're looking at revising our norms, creating SMART goals for us to have throughout the year, making sure that we're monitoring those and increasing accountability across the entire staff to make sure that we get and reach to our goals that we want to reach. We're looking at having instructional types, so non-negotiables and high yield instructional strategies identified up front. I'm a firm believer in less is more. So we're looking at no more than 3 to 5 that we keep for the entire school year. And those instructional types, we're working to create a playbook for staff to have throughout the school year in ways that we can all stay on the same page and make sure that we are doing the things that are really going to make an impact on student learning. We will revise our mission, vision, and collective commitments as a staff. Right now, we have a mission and vision that's been in place since pre-COVID. So we want to make sure that we start the year with a shared purpose and a clear focus. So we'll be doing that work. And then, like I said, we'll be doing that collaborative planning piece for the first 6 weeks of instruction. So when we come back, we'll make sure we create those unit plans together and we have those first 6 weeks already mapped out. So staff don't have to worry about that. I know with sometimes having guest teachers and new staff coming in, that is something, it's not that we don't want to do lesson plans. It's sometimes difficult to do lesson plans. So where we're at right now, to make sure we're all on the same page, we'll go through that process together. So with that being said, just some of our things to celebrate, some of our name it, claim it things. The first picture you can see, like I said, we did some planning, vertical planning together this year. When I asked my staff and we did got some of my feedback, that was some of the most successful days that we had. And that was something that they really liked together. Cooperative learning was a strategy that we tried to implement in every single classroom. So I can say that was a success. Grades 3 through 5 really took on summarizing and note taking. And did a lot of research reports. As you can see, some of the students are presenting down there. And one of the things that we did is we had quarterly student academic assemblies where we celebrated our student success. So at each one of those assemblies, we challenged the students starting in the first quarter. So the first challenge was if the students grew at least one level in F&P, they were able to participate in the glow party. So I started off with probably about 70 students 80 students that started off being able to attend the glow party. The next challenge was for students to grow at least half a year in STAR from the fall test to the winter's test for reading. And those students got to go on a field trip to the trampoline park. So we had about 95 students participate in that. Our end of the year activity was we were able to raise the funds to get a game truck to come out to the school. So the students were like, Miss Landa, you keep challenging us with reading. Some of us are really good at math. When are you gonna give us something for math? So the end of the year was all about math. So those students that grew from January from the winter benchmark to the spring benchmark, and we had at least 120 students make it for that. They were able to participate in that activity at the end of the school year. So we plan on doing more of that and celebrating our student success and seeing where we go from there. All right, that's my time. Thank you.
when your school is last alphabetically, you always get to go last. But when I found out I was presenting behind Miss Landa, I was really nervous. For good reason, but also what you're going to find is that this is a bit redundant from a lot of the things that she shared. So first of all, the guiding coalition is a bit new, I would say, to Moline this year. When we started the year with Solution Tree, we already had a school leadership in place similar to Miss Landa, and felt like instead of wiping the slate clean, that we would give it a go with that team and see what that looked like. And what we realized is some people are in leadership for different reasons. And a lot of people on that team were very effective planners and implementers, but it wasn't necessarily an instructional focus. So these are the members of our new instructional leadership or guiding coalition, who I've been sitting with actually since 7 o'clock this morning at a Solution Tree professional development. We're here together the next 3 days, learning more about the PLC philosophy. So looking forward to having a team that's going to help really accelerate learning for students and staff. So would love for the clicker to work, but if it doesn't, I'm ready to go. There we go. Currently, my Solution Tree coach and I have been working this week, as recently as yesterday, reflecting on this current school year. We have unwrapped ELA standards. We started with what I didn't know ELA was the most difficult, but it is definitely the most challenging to unwrap standards to figure out what does proficient look like for kids? What does that mean if they've mastered something? How will we assess it? And what are learning targets to get there? So we have done that this past school year. We've also worked on teachers understanding some of those high impact strategies that Ms. Landa mentioned, and we are in the beginning stages of implementing. And we have also successfully, which we'll look at some data about that in a minute, but implemented a school-wide intervention block this year. Every adult, if you breathe, you have a group and you work with that group of kids in literacy, and we have seen some pretty amazing results from that. So this summer, as I said, our instructional leadership team is attending the PLC at Work conference that started this morning and lasts through Thursday. And those poor souls were also with me for 4 days last week. The board approved for us to do 20 hours of some summer work unwrapping math standards. So those teachers have not gotten a break, but they keep coming back rejuvenated, I think, because they're getting a lot of good ideas and feel like we're moving forward. The clicker doesn't love me. Thank you, whoever's back there. Hang on. Well, it went ahead of where I wanted it to go. So we celebrate, and we celebrate a lot in our building. We celebrate adults. We look very often, the adults you see up here are ones who I told you, if you breathe in our building, you work with a small group. So all of these adults, this is a mix of our counselors in there, paraprofessionals, you've got specials teachers, classroom teachers. All of those students grew, 80% of their students or more grew in whatever the assessment was that we were using for that point in time. So we make it a big deal. We do public celebrations of that for staff, but kids also, similar to the other buildings, we do academic awards celebrations as well. We celebrate growth. So wherever you started, showing growth to get closer to proficiency. And also we make the word proficient a big deal in our building. If you are proficient and you show mastery, we are celebrating that tremendously. Our STAR early literacy scores are something that we are really, really proud of this year. Our intervention block was a huge school-wide initiative. They're not classrooms of kids, they are our kids. We test every student in grades K through 3 in STAR early literacy. I think most buildings do K and 1, but we know that our second and third graders are behind in reading. So this assessment gives us some really good diagnostic information that we use to form our intervention groups. So what this shows us is that at the beginning of the year, 48% of our kids were performing at the urgent intervention level. And by the end of the year, there were only 37% of them. So we decreased that by about 10%. What you won't see up there, because Ms. Sharp really limited my number of slides, was that if I could put the previous year up there, that we started 2 years ago with 59% of our K through 3 students that were performing below basic or at that level of urgent intervention. So we've decreased that over 22% over the last 2 years. Yeah, our belief is that we have to start with them young. If we can catch them young and we can remediate things young, then we're not going to be looking at 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders who can't read. And this slide didn't do what I wanted it to do because it's supposed to fly in, but each of those bars at the bottom represents a kindergartner. And if the graph that was supposed to be up there previously would show 38% of our kindergartners came in scoring proficient on that Start Early Literacy test. They were on grade level. You can see kind of a white line across there, and that's the benchmark line. And at the end of the year, 78% of our kindergartners are showing that they are ready for first grade with those skills. Yep. And that's all about, it's the kindergarten teachers first, but it's those intervention teams that so that the credit goes to everybody because everybody pulls a group. And it's a really big deal to get them that young. Next slide. Anybody? All right, so we are doing a lot of things around our building. Anytime you walk in, hopefully you're going to see some of these things to show that we're improving teaching and learning. First of all, kids should know what they're learning. Clear learning targets have been a real focus for us this year. Do kids know what they're learning and why? Engagement strategies. How do we get kids beyond just, I am behaviorally doing what you've asked me to do, to I am cognitively engaged in what it is that we are learning. So you'll see lots of hands-on stuff. You see our kids up in the top right corner. That's actually our group of advanced students who consistently perform above grade level. And they were studying the eye and how light refracts in the eye. And they made pinwheel. Yeah, it's probably actually above. I'm a primary teacher. So sometimes the things that they do in those groups are above my expertise. You'll also see multiple exposures. We know that all of our kids aren't going to get it the first time. So how do we show in multiple ways? How do we give them the same information in multiple ways? You're going to see kids, as I said, with that advanced group applying their knowledge. How do we take what it is that you're teaching us and apply it to real life? And then building self-efficacy, similar to what Ms. Landa talked about. Kids have to know their data. They have to know where they're performing. So we do quarterly data talks. You'll see me down there at the bottom. There's a graph. That's actually what students' data looks like. That's how it's reported. So when we hand them a graph, we want them to know what that score means. Weekly, we have a virtual all-school meeting. You'll see a little graph at the bottom. That's from Freckle, one of our academic platforms. So kids know how many kids do we have in our building who are growing in this platform, how many are struggling. It shows graphs by grade level. We know all of our kindergartners typically struggle more on those electronic platforms just because they're little kids and can't navigate them. But kids have to see their data and they feel more empowered with what they're doing. So you'll see that throughout our building. And our next steps, as we finish the year, all revolve around our data. I would say we're not overjoyed about our data across the building. We saw slight decreases in the number of kids performing below basic from about 61% to 57%. I will say that we test our first graders in STAR reading, which I don't think is common across the district, but we do feel like that's the grade that kids learn to read. And we really want to see where they're going to walk into second grade performing. It gives us more information. So it does skew that end of the year data for us a little bit. I think our math is the most concerning. We stayed pretty stagnant with that. And so that has been a bit of the reason why we pushed for the standards work over the summer. So this summer, we'll continue to work in forming this instructional leadership or guiding coalition. And our plan really after these next 3 days of training is to be ready for our work with our coach in the fall to come to our coach with ideas for our action steps and goals. Last year, we waited for the solution tree coach to come to us and do the needs assessment and talk about where she thought we should go. And this year we want to be ready with some ideas based on our data and based on our learning so we can hit the ground running. We're going to continue to implement those high impact strategies. One of the things that was said today was teachers can have all these strategies and know all of them, but teaching is an art, and the art is knowing when to use what strategy the most effectively. So we'll continue to work on that. Our intervention block for literacy was very successful for us, and we're going to try to do the same thing in math for grades 3 through 5, along with developing some shared vocabulary. And one thing that's really come out of our day today, and I think will continue tomorrow, is the use of assessment. How often are we giving assessments? And by assessment, I mean a handful of questions to determine if kids really got our teaching. And then what are we doing immediately when they didn't get it? So that's really going to be the focus of us for the next school year. I'm going to take Ms. Sharp's role. Are there any questions?
Before we take the questions, I would like to again acknowledge our principals for a great presentation. Principal Dominique Lenoir, Danforth Elementary School, Principal Cassie Yolanda, Glasgow Elementary School, Principal Amber White, Moline Elementary School. What phenomenal presentation and information. So we'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
I have a question.
Yes.
To the mic, please.
Oh. This is you. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. I agree, Mrs. Sharp. Excellent presentation. I always learn something from these. And I don't know how this applies to all of you, but I was at a presentation. Superintendent mentioned it about the town hall from Terry, Marlene Terry. And there was a representative there from the Urban League Early Childhood or Head Start. And she said that it all began with her. So my question is, how many students do we get in kindergarten and first grade that come with Head Start kind of background?
They probably don't know those exact numbers. I will say we have a waiting list for our early childhood program, and it is expanding with the Y next year. I think 3 additional classrooms will be at Lewis and Clark that will take us up to 5, is what I believe. But I don't know. We can get that data for you.
Oh, no, Superintendent, I'm not asking for those specific
okay.
numbers. I'm just asking for the just generally. Do students come to school with Head Start early education?
I would say about like 30%, like Amber said. Even all of the students that come from the early childhood center, they don't necessarily filter back into our elementary school. And then some of them, you have to think about it, the classes that are coming up, they're spread all throughout all of the elementary schools. So there's a handful of students that come in with early childhood education. Most of our students are starting from ground zero. Sometimes, especially since post-COVID, I would say, at least for my building, majority of them have no school experience.
The majority of them have no school experience. Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? So we provided in your packet information regarding the presentation that was given to DESE on June 6th. And we will be coming back to provide some additional information for you at a later date. Thank
Madam
you.
President, I had a question. I know you can't see it online. Can you see it? My question was for, let me see, I'm not sure. The principal for Danforth. I wanted to know with Building Futures, is there a monetary attachment to those services and whether or not you are in the process of any agreements with them?
Yes, ma'am. There is a monetary attachment. We have set aside monies through the ESSER to address that. It hasn't been presented to the board, but because we haven't looked at the next year's budget, but there will be within the next coming weeks, we'll be presenting that to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Our next item for information is next request. It is the all-in-one open records request platform. Making this presentation is our own Shay Fields. And this is for information.
It is for information. Good evening. I will not be before you long. Thank you for the opportunity again to present this information. And the reason why I'm presenting this information, I had the opportunity to train with our legal counsel. And one of the components of this platform is called Rapid Review. And so they were so impressed with the platform and how we're going to collaborate on responding to Sunshine Law requests that we both agreed that this additional option, which costs $3,000, is very much needed. And what it will do is allow us to redact information on the spot, like within the portal. And so with that being said, I would like for the board. This is not an actual motion for approval because the superintendent has already approved it. When it comes to the board, it will come via payment of bills in the amount of $8,988. And if you will look at the screen, this is what our portal looks like right now. I'm working with Ishmael and Ms. Flowers to enhance the look of our portal. And so they have taken some photographs with the drone of the district office. And so before we go live, we will have that background image updated and so forth. And so my ultimate goal is to go live and share the link the first week in July. And then this week, I'm going to do a soft launch where myself, the registrar at the high school, Ms. Macklin, who is Dr. Tanya Patton's assistant, will work through any bugs, any kinks within the system. And then we'll, like I said, we'll go live July 1. Do you have any questions, comments, or feedback? Thank you.
We are now into our items for discussion. Item A is the food service RFP. Making this presentation is Dr. LaVonna Singleton, and this is in compliance with EF Food Service Management. At the conclusion of this meeting, we will also be asking for approval of the vendor that has been identified. Dr. Singleton?
Thank you. Good evening, good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight, I will be sharing with you the results of the Food Service Management RFP and also a recommendation for a food service management company to carry us for the foreseeable future. Just to give you a little bit of background information about the process, we received extensive feedback about our in-house food service program, obviously from parents, students, and colleagues. Based on this feedback, we felt that it was necessary to enter into a contract to operate our food service program with an outside provider. We issued an RFP and we got approval from the SAB in the March 28th meeting. We scheduled a walkthrough on April the 4th, where we invited all of the vendors that were interested in participating in the process to come and have a visual inspection of our facilities. In addition, on May 17th, we had a bid opening of all of the vendors that chose to submit, of all of the vendors that attended the walkthrough. There were 3 proposals that were submitted. The first proposal, or one proposal, was from SFE, and SFE stands for Southwest Food Service Excellence. The next proposal came from Airmark, and the last proposal came from Teher. There were actually 2 committees that met to kind of vet the process. We looked at several things. We looked at experience. We had taste test. We also looked at MBE, WBE, and we looked at cost as well. So there were a number of factors. There was not one specific factor that led us to choose or recommend the vendor that we're recommending. And it was actually the result of both processes, and both processes came with the recommendation for SFE, Southwest Food Service Excellence, LLC. As Dr. Pruitt-Adams said on the agenda at the very end, we're going to also ask for action. We believe that it is important that the food service vendor come in and so that we can start the process of transitioning over employees. There was one question that came from the board, and I want to address it while I'm here so that we all understand part of the RFP process. So the cooks and assistant managers who are currently working for the Riverview Gardens School District will now become employees of the food service management company, okay? The school district will retain paying or employing the director, assistant director, and the food service managers. We've got a manager at many of the major schools or the bigger schools that we have, okay? With that being said, we are recommending SFE and their representative is here. I'd like to bring forth Mr. Andre Montoyas, and I would like him to just have a few words. And of course, if the board has any questions, he's more than happy to answer those questions. So I yield the microphone to Andres Montoya.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Pruitt-Adams. First, I want to thank you for this opportunity to stand in front of you and answer any questions. We're excited about this potential opportunity. Should we be fortunate enough for your vote? Is there any questions I could help answer for you?
Yeah. The staff that's coming from Riverview going over to your company,
Yes.
Use your mic, please.
or do they get to keep their salary and position? I mean, you're not lowering them.
Correct. So they will actually be getting the same hours. They'll be staying at the same school site, and they'll be getting a 3% raise on top of what they're currently earning, in addition to a $500 retention bonus.
And their title
And their title, correct?
will stay the same.
Yes.
Okay.
If I might, the only thing that would cause our current employees not to be there is an egregious action that would cause them to be terminated, and that's anywhere. And if they choose to retire. But as long as their work is satisfactory, they will be there. And the other piece is where we have continual staff turnover in cooks, the company will be responsible for filling those voids.
And
Yes.
the people in the community, do you have, like if they wanted a job, would you have openings for them?
Absolutely. So part of our proposal, we are including an increase of 9 additional positions to help with the programs and with the increased participation that we foresee. And so, yes, we have 9 open positions, and of course, the community always gets first preference.
I heard her say that. Go ahead, Dr. Von Elliott.
Yes, I just had a question concerning the staff as far as their input and what's the impact on anyone that maybe was close to retirement or anything related to their years of service and them being able to retire as normal with them changing company. What is going on with that?
Are you saying anyone who is going to retire next year or currently retiring?
Anybody that joins their, it's an echo. Anyone that joins their company and they have any years of service with us, how does it count towards their retirement for them to still be able to retire and, you know, get their benefits from that in the same manner that they would have if they were still employed?
All right, so Dr. Von Elliott, if I can attempt to answer your question, both the school district and the food service management company, our human resources departments will come together if we have employees in that situation. I understand what you're asking. If you're close to retirement, of course, you're transitioning companies, they pay into a different retirement system. How does all of that work out? Our human resources departments will come together and work with those entities in making sure that nobody is harmed because of this outsourcing, if you will. And so a lot of those questions are yet to be determined. A number of and that's one of the reasons we retain the managers, because a number of the managers are very close to retirement as well. A number of them have 20 or more years experience in our school districts. And so that was one of the reasons that we chose to remain employees of, or employers, if you will, of the managers. But to answer your question, if we've got cooks or assistant managers that are close to retirement, then it is our goal to work with our human resources and their human resources to make sure that nobody is harmed by the new company.
Dr. Singleton, we may want to add that another benefit of this is any of the employees that work 6 or more hours will get benefits.
Absolutely.
And right now, that's not happening.
And there are just so many positives to the whole going to the food service management company. Obviously, the district, there's a bottom line, but when you consider what the district is, our responsibility, it is certainly, an improvement over the current operations that we have to outsource our food service management company.
And I do want to add, just for the board, we had on both committees, we had representatives from food service who were a part of that process.
Are there any other questions? Because I have a question. The question that I want to have is,
Talking to the mic.
oh, I'm sorry. I see the recommendation for this one. Were there any similar situations, or not, I don't want to use the word situations, the two other vendors that you have down here, were they competitive in some of the things that you just said about employees, hiring employees, bonuses, and all of that? Was any of that offered by any of the other food service companies?
Yeah, so I think many of the proposals were pretty similar. I mean, everyone was willing to take on our staff. I believe no one would lose any pay as a result of going to either of the food service management companies. But again, when you look at the overall committee that we assembled and the metrics and the things that we were looking at, of course, cost is a factor, but each of the vendors showed the district not losing any money because of this. And so in that situation, all of them received high marks in terms of cost. But when you look at some of the other factors, and I will say that again, and SFE, they have a presence here locally. They are in St. Louis Public Schools. They are also in Lindbergh schools, okay? And so we were able to check references and, speak with other superintendents and people who have used these vendors. Obviously, we did our homework on Aramark as well and Taher, okay? And so, so what I'm saying is each of the vendors prepared very nice, very competitive proposals. And it was no easy decision, but I think in the end, I think what really sold a lot of the, the employees were the benefits package that SFE is offering. I mean, it is second to none. And so I think that's one of the things that really kind of made SFE stand out.
I think one of the other key factors, and all of them talked about student voice. So let me say that, but I think one of the pieces in the section that I facilitated was the continual student feedback that was garnered, testing before they put anything on the menu. Students were there. I think the other piece is Dr. Singleton, every company that presented RFP had its good point. So I don't want anyone to think that one thing supersedes the other. However, one of the things that stood out is that SFE, two different committees. So let me say that. Singleton talked about the interviews happening twice. It was two different committees. No one on the second committee was on the first committee. And SFE came out as the top vendor in both.
Are there any additional questions?
Can we just have a gentleman up here with a proposal for his service
He presented, he was one of the people, his company was interviewed.
already?
Yes.
Okay.
I had another question just for clarification. We have this item under action and it has all the same documents as before and not a contract included. So, am I missing?
Could you say that again?
I heard her. I think
there's no
you're looking
contract.
for, you're looking for a contract. Dr. Avon, our legal departments have to get together and produce the overall contract. And so right now, this action, of course, will be pending legal review. But our legal team and their legal team will put together the final contract so that the two entities can work together. So this has not gone to legal just yet.
So what are we approving then? We're just approving the selection of them, but not for them to begin service until their contract is on the agenda. I'm just trying to get clarification.
So you are approving us to move forward to do the contract so that we have it in place for the start of school and begin services with our students. that answer your question?
As long as the contract gets on the agenda for us to approve, I think I understand.
If you approve us moving forward with the company by versus of the RFP, our legal counsel will work with their legal counsel to craft the contract. You are approving us to work. We're asking that you approve us to work with SFE.
Without us seeing the contract first. That's what I'm just trying to be clear, because I don't think that would be a proper process. So we wouldn't see the contract. We'll just say, make a contract without us seeing it and being on the agenda for the public to see. We'll just be saying, go forth with it and sign off on it. I'm just.
We will bring the contract back to the board.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you so much.
So it's still gonna be, it's still an action item.
Yes, we have to have approval to move forward.
Thank you.
I
I have a question. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So in the contract, I'm just worried about the people that may retire. Is there gonna be something in the contract stating that you all have that agreement? That people that are tenured to retire, that it will be in the contract so that they won't lose? Because I would think there would be sometimes we say things verbally, but we don't continue to do them if it's not in writing.
Sure. And I think all agreements, all loose ends that need to be tied. Obviously, this is the major portion. We've selected the vendor that we're going to move forward with. From there, our legal teams will work out all of the details of the contract, and we're going to bring those, make sure the board gets those details. And yes, so I think that what you're saying is our HR departments hopefully will have talked by then, and that language will be included in the legal contract as well. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
My concern is I just don't want staff,
Okay.
Riverview Garden staff, to be shortchanged. As long as they're it's fair and they get whatever pension, whatever they're supposed to have, I'm all right with it. I just don't want to shortchange our employees.
It was never our intent and to do that, just that, to not shortchange. And as we indicated, it's actually salary-wise of a benefit. So the board has approved salaries for the 23-24 school year. That salary, they're going to get an additional 3% over that. After 90 days, I believe it's 90 days, they will get a $500 signing bonus. They will have benefits that they don't have now. And we were clear in the RFP about them taking our staff. We were clear with that. The concerns that we received from our staff, as Dr. Singleton indicated, were more so from the managers and the assistant managers who have a long tenure in the district. Our cooks, we may have a couple, but cook tenure, every year we're trying to hire cooks and they leave. But those who have tenure, we will make sure that they're taken care of.
Now with the benefits, or do they come with employment, or are they paying into these benefits? You know, like healthcare,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes, the employees will have the opportunity, will have dental, vision, medical on top of the employee discount program and 401k, there's so many items.
And so how much are you guys paying into it? Is it 100%?
No, no, it's not. There is an employer contribution. I don't have those exact numbers, but it is very competitive and very comparable to the industry.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
The next item up for discussion is the Missouri School Boards Association membership renewal. Are there any questions? This is an item that was presented previously, and we did receive a board question.
Good evening again, Special Administrative Board. The reason why I'm submitting this for discussion, the item is in the amount of $10,071. So $71 over the threshold of which our superintendent is able to approve. So this item will come back at the next board meeting for approval. It is the continuation of services with the Missouri School Boards Association. And I was asked to answer a question related to why this item was placed on the agenda at such a late date. We received it back in April, but when we received it, the invoice was incorrect. So I did delay in placing it on the agenda until I was able to secure that. Do you have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
The next item is our policy recommendation. Coming forth is Ms. Monica Williams. This item is in compliance with IGCD virtual courses, IGCDA full-time MOCAP virtual courses, and JECA2 eligibility to enroll.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight, I will be presenting the item for discussion policy recommendations. And Dr. Pruitt-Adams, you stole my thunder.
I'm so sorry.
With the policy. So the first one is IGCD virtual courses, and then IGCDA full-time MOCAP virtual courses. And the last one, JECA-2 eligibility to enroll. Are there any questions? Okay. All right.
Thank you. The next item is Newsella for grades K through 12, English Language Arts, ELA 23-24. Making this presentation is Ms. Tanya Ross, ELA Coordinator. This is in compliance with policy IIA instructional material.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. JPA, colleagues, and the school community. I am up tonight to offer for discussion the purchasing of the Newsella instructional material. It is a online literacy platform. A couple of the reasons why we want this particular instructional material is because, number one, it comes with high interest articles. The articles are updated daily. The articles are also differentiated between 4 different contents, even though we'll primarily at first be using it for ELA. In addition, it has a wide range of sources. And so the students it's a wide range of sources which have already been vetted. So it prevents the teachers from having to go out to do the additional searches for, I'm going to say, shorter and more interest-based reading materials, as well as on the student platform, it allows the students to have a more controlled environment when they switch over to the writing projects that come along with this platform. It is a supplementary resource. It allows our teachers to get immediate feedback on where our students are in terms of meeting their diverse needs. When you compare the supplementary resource to our primary resource, being that the articles are, they have 5 lexile ranges, you're able to meet all of the needs of our students. So you may be well aware that at the high school level, we do have students who are reading at the elementary level. The main textbook is grade level text. So this is just a valuable resource that all of our students and teachers can benefit from. As I already mentioned, there are writing components as well as reading components. Writing and reading should be taught together and not in isolation. The cost of the instructional resource is not to exceed $28,000. You have the exact amount there with the individual cost per schools. It is a secondary resource, and it is budgeted through the ESSER 3 funds. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Madam President, I have a question.
Okay.
I got confused. I opened up all the little.
Okay. Okay, so let me explain what you have there. Being that this is a $28,000 cost, we also had to get other companies that offer a similar product. We also had to get a proposal from them as well. So we're required to have at least 3. So you have one there from Scholastic and you have one there from Common Lit. The other documents, you have 3 quotes, one for Central Middle, one for Westview, one for the high school, and then you have the addendums.
So you know, before I can ask the question, you knew what I was going to.
Yes, ma'am.
That was confusing to me. And then why does it just say 3 schools?
Because that includes our secondary schools. The New Zealand product that we're hoping to purchase is for our secondary schools starting, but it does have the potential. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That it does have the potential to start as early as our 3rd grade. So we might be coming back at a later time for different grades.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Ava Elliott also had a question, and Dr. Cole.
I just wanted to make a comment. I absolutely love New ZLA, and it does give that right now feedback for the teacher because you can see by standard what the child understands and where they need the help. But I would also encourage you to, it takes a little bit more work to include that writing prompt in, because that the teacher has to grade individually. But I encourage you, the way that New ZLA asks the question, it encourages the student to write out their answer and explain why it's the answer. And then not only that, but to make a connection. And that means to apply what they read to what they know. And that's real learning. So I love it. I also want to say, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, that I also love Common Lit. Can we have both? Because they are both excellent.
So there's different, and this is different from
Different platforms.
platform, and this is different from, what did we talk about last week? Freckle?
Oh, yes.
Different. Okay.
Yes. Dr. May, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was answered with Mrs. Lane's inquiry.
Thank you.
Our next item is the Launch Virtual Summer School Program for July 2023. Making this presentation is Dr. Stacy Nichols, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. This is in compliance with policy IGAB, Instructional Intervention. Dr. Nichols?
Yes, good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, and school community. This evening, I am presenting the Launch Online Summer Program for discussion. The district will provide extended learning opportunities for students via the Launch Online program for the month of July. Students will receive online services in the areas of math and literacy. The instructional focus is designed to help students improve foundational reading and basic math skills. In addition, Launch is a state-approved vendor. Attendance is monitored via the Launch organization, and attendance is reported and shared with the district. Virtual attendance is recorded on the basis of participation in the courses. If a student logs into 2 courses and submits work, the district will receive the full day attendance credit. Also, virtual learning has no impact on sports eligibility at the secondary level. All traditional courses are eligibility approved. In addition, guest teachers are hired to implement the online courses for elementary and secondary students using the course content that is aligned with the Missouri Learning Standards. Also, identify adaptive programs are used to assess students' mastery in the content areas. The cost to implement the summer program will not exceed the budgeted amount that's listed on the board doc item. The program will be supported via the ESSER 3 Summer School Grant. Do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, just as presented, did you have additional bids for that? Because $90,000 is a lot of money. Did you have some other companies that provide the same services? And what was that process, RFP process?
So the Launch program is a sole source program. Also, it's a board approved program. Years ago, during COVID, the board voted to select Launch as the district approved Launch Online program. to provide services for the district because they do provide discounts for our students to participate in the online program. The other vendors do not provide the discounts. So that's why we went with the launch program.
So there are other vendors, but they don't provide discounts, you are saying?
Right. So the launch engages in a contract with the district. Years ago, when COVID first started, the board approved for the district to adopt a launch partner as a partner for Riverview Garden School District due to the fact that they provided a discount for our scholars to participate in the program.
So this is more like a renewal than.
No, this isn't. The partnership has already been previously approved. So this is not a renewal. This is just a request for us to use their services this summer to extend learning and provide summer school online opportunities for our scholars in July.
Okay, so just in July is gonna be $90,000? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so what we projected was we allocated 600 spots, 300 for elementary scholars, 300 spots for secondary scholars. However, they do not bill us if scholars do not participate. So this is the projected cost. However, if we do not have 600 students participate, they will not bill us that amount. We will only be billed for the number of scholars that participate this summer.
And I also want to add that this is an extension. Our traditional summer school program is a 3-week program, but we believe that, if we extend that, at least with the virtual additional piece, that gives our scholars 6 weeks of summer learning instead of 3 weeks of summer learning. And some of our scholars will need that, as when we increased summer school this year, we included the policies that bring up retention. And our policy is very clear, particularly at the secondary level when students are not performing.
Are there any other questions?
For this program, during the month of July, the online portion of this program, will there be some assistance from teachers? Is there a teacher overseeing?
Yes, they will engage in both asynchronous and synchronous learning this summer. Thank you.
Our next item is Federal Program Social Emotional Curriculum Boot Camp. Making this presentation, Dr. Tanya Patton, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support.
Dr. Jarlin said Tanya Patton. Oh no. Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Joylin, community and colleagues. Tonight I bring before you a social emotional curriculum writing boot camp. Our guidance counselors and our social workers must work together to be in compliance with DESE. So they will be working this summer to come up with and develop a social emotional curriculum. The planned workshop is to meet the requirements that they must meet according to DESE. It will cost $8,875. There will be 5 participants working for 5 hours a day for 11 days to develop this curriculum. The cost is coming out of federal programs. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Our next item is the 23-24 staffing plan adjustment. Dean of Students making this presentation is Monica Williams.
Good evening again. The item for discussion at this time will be a dean of students for Westview Middle School. And Westview has had some challenges over the past school year, and the Special Administrative Board approved for Westview to have an additional assistant principal. And there have been some challenges with staffing the administrative positions there. So what we would like to propose is that one of the assistant principal allocations be converted to a dean of students. And that dean of students will perform many of the same duties as the assistant principal will perform. However, they will not have administrative authority to issue consequences and so forth. Are there any questions?
Yes.
So what would, go ahead, Ms. Elliott.
Will this person have to have any, what credentials will they have to have?
So they would have to have teacher certification on the middle school level. We're also looking for someone who's working on their administrative certification. That's preferred, but it's not required. And also at least 5 or more years of successful teaching experience.
What would be the salary difference? Since you said that some of the duties would be the same, what would be the salary difference from them being a dean as opposed to an assistant principal?
So the salary, depending on the years of experience that they have, but it would potentially be lower because the salary for the dean is on the teacher salary scale, it's not on the administrative scale.
Thank you.
And I also have a question, a couple of questions. I know that the position of dean is to help to ease some of the responsibilities for the administrators, and that's a wonderful thing. However, I guess my concern is if the dean does not have the authority to administer discipline, and he or she has to go back to the assistant principal, tell them about the infraction, discuss what happens and what is the proper discipline for that infraction, would it not be more feasible to have an assistant principal? Or my question is, if that person who is the candidate for dean has an administrative certificate, wouldn't it be more effective to have them to have an administrative assistant that can perform those complete duties without having to go back to them?
It would be. We've interviewed multiple times. There's technically 3 positions for assistant principal. Right now we have 1 filled. We've gone through the process and we realized that there's, as Ms. Williams said, a lot of challenges that took place at West. One of the key pieces too for a dean is their whole relationship piece with students. And the dean can make recommendations for consequences. It's just that by law, if they don't have the admin certificate, they are not the ones who can impose those consequences, but they can make recommendations. In a perfect world, yes, we would love to have an assistant principal. And should someone who is going for this position, as Ms. Williams indicated, be seeking that, if they get it, then we can always make that adjustment. But right now, we've not been able to, the administration has not been able to identify someone who has taken our salary offering.
I have a question. I read the qualifications and all the responsibilities. It seems like a whole lot to me. And I also read that they have a teaching certificate, but that's different than an administrative certificate.
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay, so, but all the stuff that's there, all of the responsibilities that you guys listed, that's a lot. So if you're having trouble or challenges finding a assistant superintendent, do we think that this will be not as challenging to find
do you mean an assistant principal?
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Thank you.
There are people who, there are people who aspire for administration who would love this opportunity to see what it's like and begin to build their skill set as an administrator. And that's why Ms. Williams indicated that, we hope that someone who, as an administrator, will apply, but those who aspire for administrative certification as well. Sometimes it could be the point of, yes, I really want to continue this, or no, not what I thought. But because we have tried, and we're at the end of hiring season, most districts have hired, and because no one has been identified by our leadership, and as I said, the individuals, we had at least 2 individuals who were identified who turned it down because the hiring pool is so bad that they went somewhere else where they could get a little bit more money. And so for us, a dean will help in ways that not having anyone will not. And that relationship piece is critical to helping that building address climate and culture.
I have a process question, Madam President. For candidates who may have interviewed for AP positions at this level, they remain in the pool. Do you all go back and ever contact them for interest in the vacant positions for them to either finish their interviewing process or for them to receive an offer? What is your process with candidates that go back into the pool but were not previously selected?
So the answer to that would be yes. If we have a candidate who we think would be a good fit for certain positions, yes, we contact those candidates, let them know what we have available, and we do ask them to apply if they're interested.
And we will be asking for approval at the next board meeting.
Are we limited to only one dean? Is there a possibility you have such a good pool of?
So we have those two vacancies right now with two assistant principal vacancies, but for now we're still hopeful that we'll get one more assistant principal and then also be able to hire a dean if the board approves it.
Our next item is temporary staffing in the Human Resource Department.
Okay, another item for discussion. And this one, bringing to you tonight, we have Mrs. Angela Hester, who's been with us for 3 years. She has worked in several different capacities in the Human Resources Department. She served as a staffing coordinator before we hired one. She also served as the recruiter. We recently filled the recruiter position. And then she normally comes back during peak season to help us with the workload. So her assignment was scheduled to end with us June 30th. It was contingent upon us hiring a recruiter, and we filled that position. However, we've had another situation, an unexpected situation in human resources, which has caused one of our key members to not be available at this time. And so with the number of high vacancies that we have, you can see there in the board item, I am asking if the Special Administrative Board will extend her time in human resources from July 1st to August 31st. Any questions?
I do have a question. Given that we just hired a new superintendent, what is the courtesy that's being given for that person to determine whether or not that staffing is necessary, or if they could strategize against around other staffing for that?
Ms. Hester has a continual relationship with the district. She is currently helping us. We see her as an additional resource for the new assistant superintendent for human resources, just based upon her years of knowledge. She's been with the district multiple years.
Yeah, that was my point. I was just talking about courtesy for him to make that evaluation as the new superintendent, assistant superintendent.
She is currently serving in that position. We have no problem with him meeting her, but I need to stress the importance of having someone who knows our processes and our procedures, who's been with our district for a while, and who wants to stay and help us through August, rather than now having to go out and post an interview and have someone picked.
And can I also add too that Mr. Ford is familiar with Ms. Hester, and he's worked with her every season she's been here, and he's satisfied with her. He's satisfied with her work.
Okay,
He just said
thank
she's
you.
good.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Our next item, temporary cleaning technicians, June 20th through August 18th. And these are internal positions. Dr. Singleton.
Good evening again, Special Administrative Board. Tonight, again, I'm going to present an agenda item. We presented this agenda item last year, and it went over well. We're going to refine the process some this year, do the training that's necessary. But essentially, we are asking the board to approve about 30 temporary positions. And these are really geared towards our 10-month staff, our 11-month staff who may not, whose assignments would have ended at the end of the school year, to come back and do some additional work with us in terms of cleaning. These positions are going to be funded through the ESSER 3 grant. And so we're asking that the SAB allow us to advertise. Perhaps Dr. Pruitt-Adams approve these positions. And then, of course, we bring them back through the personnel report as ratification. So that is the recommendation. Are there any questions that I may answer at this time?
I have a question. What would be the process just to make this a regular job description that you can just hire like this in the future? Is there a policy change that's necessary? What would be necessary to just have this just no differently than having summer school staff that you hire, that you just do this every year?
There's a couple of things that can happen. Right now, we are short-staffed, as you know, with maintenance people. And so our hope is, as we build a team, which we're building a team of skilled craftsmen now, which historically we've paid outside people to do. It would take a contractual change to make sure that all of our people are 12-month people to get that done. But until that point, this is where we are. It's also our way of ensuring that our 11-month people who want to work in the summer have the access and the opportunity to do so. One of the things that puts us behind, and I'm just going to say it, is that our 12, we closed down as a district. I know that's going to make some people feel some kind of way, but we closed down for winter break and we closed down for spring break. And when I say closed down, we closed down totally. And so we have no maintenance and custodial people who are working during that time. In most districts, when they do the massive cleaning in the summer, when they have the staff to do it, then there's another dose of cleaning over winter break. We don't have that. And then there's another dose of cleaning over spring break. And so it's not the massive then work that needs to be done that we have to take on in the summer. So in the summer, we find ourselves painting. We find ourselves patching holes, cleaning mold, doing all kinds of things that if we had the workforce and if we changed the contractual agreement with our maintenance and custodial people, not to say they would not still get their vacation days, but that we have a team of people who are assigned, it is their job to work winter break and spring break. And right now we don't have that. That's another option. Dr. Coleman?
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
The next item is Aspire Professional Learning MOU. This is also being presented by Dr. Tiffany Patton, who is virtual. Dr. Patton.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening again, SAB, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, community members. I have a series of MOU agreements to discuss for this evening. First item is Aspire Professional Learning. This is a professional learning software program that provides digital self-paced modules on the science of reading for teachers in 4th through 12th grade core content areas, which are ELA, math, science, and reading. The MOU also includes a success partnership with a knowledgeable consultant who works for the company and will provide guidance and support with establishing PLCs across the district to deepen the learning and transfer the knowledge. The content within the modules is directly aligned to the letters science of reading training, which elementary teachers will be engaged in during the 23-24 school year. 4th through 12th grade teachers will engage in professional learning using this platform for a half day on district PD days. The software will support our efforts as a district to provide targeted professional development on reading instruction across all content areas, which will increase the confidence and capacity of all teachers as well as students' reading scores. It is recommended that the SAB approve the MOU for Aspire Professional Learning Services with a cost not to exceed $73,700. You have any questions regarding this item?
Okay, our next item then is the Letters Administrators MOU. Dr. Patton?
The same, so for the letters, professional learning for administrators, the same company who owns the Aspire professional learning software also provides training specifically for administrators and instructional coaches on the implementation of letters in schools. The MOU is for services that will provide access to online resources, which include walkthrough tools, observation checklists, and user-friendly quick guides that will help administrators more easily determine what changes to look for in classrooms for the concepts that teachers are learning in letters to be implemented. It will also support their ability to give feedback and provide coaching aligned to the letters training that teachers will be engaged in. The MOU also includes 2 in-person learning sessions for administrators and coaches. Is it recommended that the SAB approve the MOU for letters for administrators, professional learning with a cost not to exceed $25,750? I'm happy to answer any questions about this one.
Yes, Madam President, I have a question for Dr. Singleton. It was based on a previous inquiry, so we know whether or not we need to make any changes. Based on a previous role that I had, in their procurement documents, it indicates that their MOUs is for when no money is exchanged. And then when a contract is developed, is for contractual agreements and legally binding. Why is there a differentiation of MOUs and contracts with our district, where when it's no money or money, MOUs are being used versus contract? I couldn't find like our business document to see what our process was to get that clarification, because the person thought I was asking about a different agreement when I asked that question.
We will have to research when the district went to that process of MOUs versus contracts. I don't know that answer. That's the processes that were used when I got here. I will say that they all go through our legal counsel, which is White Coleman for review. White Coleman offers suggested language, red line language, and then we go back to the vendor before that's approved, and then we bring it to the board. But the process on which the district decided which would be an MOU and which would be procurement, we will have to follow up on.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is Kick Up renewal.
The Kick Up platform is our district-wide professional learning platform, and it's being brought forward for an annual renewal of the contract. The platform is used to track professional learning hours for all district staff, which supports certification upgrades with DESE. It allows staff members to register for professional learning opportunities both inside and outside of the district, and it provides data on walkthroughs and observations across schools for comparative analysis purposes. The functions managed through this platform are critical to the operations of the professional learning office and are invaluable. It is recommended that the SAB approve the renewal of the use of this platform at a cost not to exceed $24,854. Happy to answer any questions regarding this item. Okay.
Thank you. The next item is But First You. MOU. Making this presentation is also Dr. Tiffany Patton.
Thank you, Dr. Pruitt Adams. This is my last one for today. The But First You LLC MOU is connected to the professional learning services that will be provided in the form of workshops at the July Equity and Action Conference that's being sponsored by the district. This day will be July 19th, where they will focus on providing workshops on a number of topics from stress management to self-care for staff members. But First You is a company owned by local therapist, Dr. Deanna Granger, who's also a certified educator and has provided professional learning in the area of mental health to a plethora of school districts in the area and school sites. She has partnered with another local licensed therapist named Dr. Jenna Knight to create the This Is Not a Drill curriculum in response to the increase of mental health needs of staff that have led to significant increases in resignations, exits from the field, and overall burnout. The topics that they will present, as I mentioned earlier, on this day of July 19th, range from stress management to self-care. Participants will also be provided with materials on this day, which can be used after the training. It is recommended that the SAB approve the MOU agreement with But First You LLC, not to exceed the amount of $8,500. Happy to take any questions you may have regarding this item. Okay, thank you.
The next item is the independent consultant for human resources. As indicated, Ms. Williams, who has served as the assistant superintendent for human resources for the past 6 years, I believe. Did I get it right? 4 years, okay. Has stated her intent to retire at the conclusion of the 22-23 school year. There are several projects that are currently in mid-process, and we are asking that Ms. Williams be allowed to come back and address. They are listed as ASOP Frontline Upgrade, the Keystone Upgrade for Human Resource Management, Substitute Teacher Process, Recruitment and Training, Implementing the Teacher Evaluation System in Talent Ed, which is a part of our collective bargaining agreement, the transition of the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, also helping that person understand the intricacies of core data and so forth, establishing a timeline for HR processes, and to help with the training of our HR staff and district employees in the new systems that are being implemented. Right now, she is the only one who has knowledge of these processes, since she has been actively working on them. And so we are requesting that we be able to move forward with Ms. Williams as an independent contractor, and we will come back at the next board meeting. Are there any questions?
Yes. You presented Mrs. Hester with a specific dollar amount with quotes from 3 vendors with their hourly rate. But for this particular contract, there is no not to exceed amount with 3 vendors indicated on it. So that's inconsistent with the practice over your other contractors.
The reason for that, we did indicate $100 per hour, not to exceed 30 hours per week. We did not put a cap on that because we are not sure the timeline to implement all of these initiatives that she's working on and the transition of the new assistant superintendent. We did not go out for bid because of the work that she is doing is work that Ms. Williams has initiated herself, and she has firsthand unique knowledge that someone else coming in would not know and would have to get caught up on.
Yes, I'm just referring to processes and procedures, not devaluing what she can contribute, but we have to follow the same processes for any person in the same situation. So that we don't have any liability from someone saying that they didn't have an opportunity to offer the same services. So before we approve it, I think that it would be proper for those processes to be followed with the same way that the board policy would suggest, with amount to be determined indicated, and if we need to come back and amend, that is actually amended that way, than for it to be a blank check and just be 30 hours at 100 hours without knowing what the cap is. That's my recommendation.
Are we discussing this, Superintendent?
This is an item for discussion, yes. However, going back to Dr. Ahmad Elliott, we did put in a salary cap per hour, and we capped the number of hours per week. But your point is well taken.
Thank you.
And I want to reiterate that we really don't have time to table this or to put it aside, because school starts in July. Or in August.
And Ms. Williams has 12 days left.
And we still don't have enough staff. We can't afford to waste the time.
And she's a current employee.
And it plainly states here, I think it says $35 now, not to exceed
She is $100 per hour.
Okay.
But we did not ask for approval today, but time is of the essence. And if the board is in agreement, I would ask that the board approve this today.
I make a motion. May I make a motion that we approve this today?
Are we adding to the consent approval?
I make a motion, we approve this today. We add this to the items for consent and approve this item today.
I would not put it in the item for action.
Action, okay. I make a motion, we put this in the item for action to approve this item. What's the letter?
It is item
Item N for action today.
All in favor?
Aye.
I thought we didn't do a second, nor did we do discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a second to that motion?
A second.
It's been second. Are there any additional questions?
Yes, the motion that I did to amend the agenda was for something that would not be in violation of sunshine. If this is an emergency, I think with the motion, it will need to be stated that this is an emergency action for us to be able to do that without alerting the public in enough advance for a contract. So are we saying that this is an emergency?
Do I need to say it's an emergency?
If it is,
yeah. Then I will say that it is urgent.
You amend your motion.
I amend my motion to include the words that we urgently address item N in items for action.
As an emergency.
As an emergency.
Okay.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers?
abstention.
Thank you. Any abstention? Abstain.
Yes.
Ms. Tippett, could not hear your vote. Aye. Okay, aye. Okay, thank you. The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay.
The next item is item O100, neediest family. Making this presentation is the other Dr. Patton, Dr. Tanya Patton, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services.
And I get the last item of the discussion. I'm going to take my sweet time. Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Jorling, colleagues and community. Tonight I bring before you an MOU for us to partner with 100 Neediest Families to support our community. As you know, the 100 Neediest Families has been around for over 50 years, and they are led by the United Way and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This organization reached out to us and asked to partner with us to serve our community. It's our goal to help them identify some of our families who may need their support, as well as help our families complete the application process. This partnership is at no cost to the district. It is recommended that the board approve this MOU pending legal review. Are there any questions?
Is that slow enough? All right, thank you.
That concludes the items for discussion.
We will then move to the items for approval for consent agenda, and I believe that we discussed that item H would be pulled. And I believe that we are including the language for the board members to meet with Normandy Board.
That would have to be down,
Items for
that's
action,
under action.
items for action. So therefore, then, yes,
Madam Chair, for clarification, my motion was for us to have a board workshop for us to do that discussion, not for us to vote on anything in relation to training. My motion was for a workshop. That's what we approved for the agenda. for.
I stand in it. Board workshop.
Just for clarification,
Yes.
are you asking that instead of participating with the Normandy Collaborative, that the board have a workshop to discuss participating with them or doing their own?
Yes, and we will have a workshop where we will discuss that training and any other items that the board see fit during that time. So
The meeting for
the workshop.
I hear that. My request was direction from the board to proceed with whether or not I should move forward with MSBA, because there's a conference call tomorrow about doing these ongoing governance workshops with Normandy Collaborative. That was what my ask was. So that's two different asks, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't make a motion for that. No, there wasn't a motion for that. I was trying to have a workshop where we could discuss whether or not we wanted to move forward with that, so we can have open dialogue and relax and have informal discussion.
For clarification, are you asking that we have a meeting to talk about having a meeting?
No, that we will be talking about training, whether it's training, whether it's goal setting, whether it's the board retreat. It's called a workshop that the board does in order to facilitate that conversation. Where we're in formal conversation, yes.
Are you including MSBA in that?
That's up to the board to decide.
Because then are we talking? Okay, go ahead. Are we if we take into consideration what board member Yvonne Elliott is saying, am I correct that we would be paying MSBA to come and have a workshop with us? And then if we decide to go to Normandy, we'd be paying again. So, and the object of the purpose for collaborating with Normandy was to help us to absorb some of that cost. Is that correct?
So the purpose, so there's two options. The board has always had the option of having MSBA come in and do work sessions. We've done that. That's been our standard practice. The difficulty lately, because we wanted to do our new board member orientation, was actually coming up with a date where we could get all the board members at the same time in the same place. We're talking two different things. We can have our sessions with MSBA as we choose. This session with Normandy is specific to this board and to Normandy's board regarding governance concerns that seem to be floating out there. And so it has been suggested that we partner with Normandy. There is a cost. It's $150 an hour, and there's travel costs. We will split that cost if we are doing it with Normandy, tied to those topics for governance. But that does not stop us from at another point in time of doing that. Based upon my correspondence, this is critical. That to me is different. The other impression that I have is that this is time sensitive, since I was notified today that there is a planning meeting tomorrow. So that is separate, I believe, from what Dr. Yvonne Elliott is asking. And now that I know that that is separate, that I would still be asking the board for guidance on how to proceed with the request that we partner with the Normandy Collaborative.
So for the meeting, the meeting tomorrow with MSBA, they simply want to know whether, number one, we're going to agree to
The meeting tomorrow, with MSBA and Norman is to plan those multiple sessions and whether or not we want to participate. That's what I am asking guidance on. If the board wants me to proceed with that, so that we could go through those governance training. I think Dr. May is asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. May, she is asking us to have a work session to discuss whether or not we want to do this. And the meeting with Norman is actually tomorrow. So for me, my request is time is of the essence. If the board does not want to proceed, that may have another consequence for us as well.
We don't want to have any other consequences. So I think we should proceed. Now, the way I understand it, we can either have, I'm sorry.
I just want to stop us for a minute because we are actually in consent agenda.
Right.
But I was thinking when Dr. May, because Ms. Moore Real thought it was in here.
Right.
In consent agenda, we were saying it's not. So I would wait until we get to items for action.
And before we do consent agenda, I do want to apologize. I was asked during our meeting while the presentations was going on, we see that Alana Hill, Lanaya, I always mention it, but I'm sorry. Hill is here, and with this being her last student board member representative, I would like to give her that opportunity to do her report.
Since we are in, hold on a second though. Since we are already in the consent agenda, we probably should finish that and then go to her report.
Okay. All right, thank you. So in the consent agenda, the only item that we pulled was item H, which had to do with Soul Fisher.
A little bit.
A little bit, I'm sorry. For the Little Bit Foundation, I apologize. For Little Bit Foundation, that was item H. So everything else is the same. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Shay. Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Jackson.
The consent agenda.
Yeah.
Yes. Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Worth?
Yes.
Dr. Colvin?
Yes.
Maria? Yes. Martha?
Yes.
Dr. Von Elliott?
Yes.
So now we will get
Lanaya.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good evening, you all, Special Administrative Board and other board members. I do apologize. Y'all know I was a little late today. I'm a new driver and my GPS consistently goes to the highway. So it took me another 16 minutes to come back this way. I was going the other way. I was like, okay, we're just going to go back. We're just going to keep going. So I did make it here safely. So I try to not drive super fast, especially when I feel like I'm rushing. Like I have to remind myself, hey, you're going to get there. So I do apologize for being a little late today. But that is a perfect example of what I was going to talk about, growth. As we have graduated, myself, Precious, and the other class 2023 from Riverview Gardens High School, I learned that growth comes in many different forms. At my job, they actually promoted me to be a sponsor, which is kind of similar to a team lead. And I really didn't like it at first because I'm just like, I just want to be myself. Why do I always got to have a position? Can I just be myself? And it was like, no, you are a leader. You need to do this. And so it took me a while to really adjust to it because I didn't want everybody to depend on me for stuff. And I had one of my associates come to me one day and she was like, lady, I really need your help. That's what they call me. Everybody calls me lady at work. And so she's like, I really need your help. The boss is getting upset with me for a situation. And fast forward, I helped her out. And I didn't really see how much of a difference it made until I seen her actually go up to him and say, I'm sorry, I could have responded to you in a different way. And he was like, okay, I'm glad that you admitted and you were able to be responsible enough and hold yourself accountable. And when I seen that, it definitely made me look at what I do in a different light rather than it being I'm just responsible for people. You know what I mean? I'm actually helping people, which is you know, that's something to be proud of. So moral of this conversation, growth, it comes in many different forms. Sometimes you don't want to do things you don't think you're ready for, like college. College is like 2 months away. And it's something I'm not stressed out about, but I'm a little nervous because I'm going 4 hours away to a school with mostly white kids, but it's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It is just something new and something different. So this is a reminder to not just myself, but to everyone to embrace growth and know that you can do anything if you go into it with a positive mind. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity for letting me come up here and speak to you.
Wait. Hold on. For those of you who weren't at graduation, Lanaya and another young man sang a beautiful song. What was the name of that? It brought tears to many of us up on the stage. It was simply beautiful. You need to record it and just send it to me.
Okay, so for clarity's sake, as we go into the items for action, I understand what Dr. Yvonne Elliott is asking, that we have a workshop, but I'm going to be realistic and just make this comment and say that based on the information that we discussed during closed session, that I think that it's imperative that we go ahead and we allow Dr. Pruitt-Adams to set this workshop up for us. I think once we have gained information from that, then we can meet as a board to do additional board workshops if we need to take that discussion further. I'm not making that as an executive decision or anything, but that's my position on this matter because of the urgency.
And let me be clear, there's a multiple series with Normandy. It's just not one.
Understand?
There's a multiple series of workshops. But Dr. May's item is on the agenda for consent. My item is just asking directions.
Okay. So
I mean, for action. I'm sorry. Her item is for action. I am asking for direction.
So I'd like each board member to give a comment to Dr. Pruitt-Adams as to where you think she should go, what she should do. I want to hear them say it, and then that can be their vote. So you can call it as a roll call vote, and they can make their say.
Can I make a point of order? I think the challenge is, because we have not put it on the agenda, we wouldn't be able to vote on it. So that's why I amended the agenda for the workshop, so we can get more details to make a decision about it. Right now, all the details is not there. So if
they're there. They're there. They are there.
Yeah.
Dr.
So that was the challenge. We can, you want to make an amendment to it, you can amend it. Make another amendment to the agenda.
So if I might interject, and I mean, no offense to anyone, I had indicated to the board in closed session that I would be asking for direction in the public meeting, because it was stated that this had to be a public conversation when we were in closed session. And so because the board knew that I was going to ask, I was going to ask in my announcement. And when Dr. May made her recommendation, when we were talking about amending the agenda, I made the assumption, and maybe I should not have, that this was going to be a vote on what we talked about in closed session. I hear you when you say it's not on the agenda. But time is, I can only stress to the board, at the end of the day, I work at the will of the board, but we are in a place where we almost don't have a choice. I don't know how to say that any clearer.
So I'm saying that the solution would be for the agenda to be amended again, to add it as an action item, and then it can be addressed with proper documentation with the board secretary. I would like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to add as an action item, approval of the superintendent having a discussion about partnering with Normandy concerning training. Is that what your ask is? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can she get a second? Can we get a second?
I'll
That doesn't
second.
mean, okay,
I'll second that.
second, okay. Roll call vote
This is to amend the agenda, am I
Yes.
correct?
to amend the agenda. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Blaine?
Yes.
Ms. Disworth?
Yes.
Dr. Tony?
Yes.
Dr. Von Elliott?
Yes.
Mario? Yes. And Ms. Hartley?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an action item. We'll vote on, the first item that we will vote on is the, food services contract. May I have a motion to vote on the food services contract?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
For the question,
Yes.
we were going to vote for them to enter into a contract, and they were going to present the contract the next board meeting.
Extremely.
Yeah,
Yes.
the RFP. So what, so I apologize if you state that the RFP, we're approving the RFP.
She would have to just restate her motion.
So the RFP was approved a while back before it went out. The topic, this is the selection of the vendor. This says RFP management, but the recommendation is the selection of the vendor,
Okay,
SFE. That's the recommendation.
okay. So we are approving the recommendation of SFE as the food service vendor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? Any abstentions? Okay, that's that one.
Thank you.
All right. Let me get back to my page here. Okay.
Temporary summer.
Temporary summer cleaning.
Right. The next, I'm trying to find my page. Okay, the next item is the temporary cleaning,
Yeah.
temporary summer cleaning
Technician
technician
from June 20th.
from June 20th to
18th.
August the 18th. Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I
Second,
have? Moved in second. Are there any questions?
What was she saying?
She said, she seconded the motion. Okay. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposers? Any abstentions? Okay, and I believe now the final item is two.
No,
May
doctor.
and mine. Dr. May had an item that was added. And then you just approved the amendment to add my request to move forward.
Right. Okay, Dr. May, can you repeat yours?
Okay, so we have three things. One was for workshop, the collaboration with Normandy, and we were approving the independent contract under action item.
I didn't hear you. Say that, the last one again for me, please.
Consultant. The independent consultant.
Oh, independent consultant.
Honor.
Thank you all so much. I had so much writing, I got confused.
That's
Okay.
all right.
So let's first approve the collaboration with Normandy. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers?
Abstain.
I was going to say any abstentions. So you have the authority to move forward. The next thing has to do with the board holding a workshop session. That would be probably after the collaboration with Normandy. So may I have a motion?
I move that we hold a workshop to discuss future board trainings, retreats, and any other discussions per the request of the board president.
A workshop to discuss future training? Did I understand that?
Yes, a board workshop is where the board discuss goals, planning, and so forth, and we have to eventually have a meeting to facilitate those discussions. So if we can set the date tonight, or we can set it for administrative practice where Shay try to coordinate our date.
Well, it has to pass a motion. It has to be, doesn't it?
That's what we're trying to
That's what we
do.
do. Yeah.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept her recommendation for us to have workshops to discuss further board trainings, setting goals and what have you? You have a motion?
I did
Motion
the
doesn't,
motion, we just need a second. I
okay,
did
you
the
make the motion.
motion.
Thank you. Okay, she made the motion. Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I have a question.
Oh,
Superintendent, did you say that we could always have a meeting with the SBA?
Right, and that's what Dr. May
That's what
is
she's
saying,
saying.
that
That's
you
what she-
meet to decide, how you want to proceed
Right, that's,
with the board's individual trainings, either with MSBA or goals and so forth. That's what she's asking for. Is that correct, Dr. May?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are intending that in addition to what we're doing with Normandy, is that correct?
Right, because we got to do board business outside of Normandy.
right. So I got it now. So, so all in favor? I can get up.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? Any abstentions? Okay, I think the ayes have it. Finally, we're voting to accept the independent contract, the independent, I guess I want to call you.
The independent consultant.
Independent consultant, and it will, looks like on here is going to go from the school year of 2023, 2024.
It may not last.
It may
the
not
whole
last
school
the whole
year,
school year, but
but we don't have a definitive date.
okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
For the question.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion to amend the contract to include a specific amount to not exceed.
Isn't that already in the?
To not exceed.
It says not to exceed a certain
It's
amount of
already in
hours.
there.
Some of, whatever the amount is, that it include a specific amount not to exceed.
Is that correct, Dr. Pruitt Adams, that it already says it?
So right now, what is in there is $100 per hour, not to exceed 30 hours per week.
Makes sense.
So what's
And who made the motion?
I made the motion. She hadn't asked for a second yet for us to do the discussion.
so you just said, Dr. Superintendent, that there's no time limit on this. So how can we set, if there's no time limit, how can we set a maximum?
Okay,
Right now, there's a motion to vote on the floor, and you guys to vote.
I thought we were in discussion.
I had made a motion to amend. We were waiting
I
for a
know,
second. So, Madam
She
Chair.
is amending her motion. Dr. May made the initial motion, and now she's amending her motion.
so, okay,
I second. Let's open it up.
okay,
Now for
Now you-
discussion.
okay, now we can, all in favor?
So you open it up for questions in case
Okay.
people have questions.
Oh, Jesus, I hope they think. Does anybody have any questions?
So my question is, you made the comment that there is no expiration date. We don't know how long this is going to last. So how can we put a maximum dollar amount when we don't know how long her services will be needed?
Because normally we put in a beginning date. and not to exceed a certain amount. With the projects that have done, we discussed that and made the decision that we really, at this point, couldn't put a cap because we don't know how long it's going to take, because as you saw in the item, there were multiple.
Right.
What Dr. May is asking is that a cap be assigned. Right now, not really analyzing all the work, I would be guessing if I gave you a definitive amount. What she also said earlier was if we got to that point, do like we did with Miss Hester and come back and ask for it. Did I get that correct, Dr. May?
Yes, ma'am. And for discussion purposes, it was just to make sure that we were in compliance by doing the same contractual documentation and processes as the others, where there is an amount that exceeds that we cap it at. And then if we need to revisit, then we do it accordingly. Because there is an amount that we wouldn't have to do a bid amount for. So even if we start with that, that would be more appropriate than just voting, and it might not exceed the amount for a bid, but once it do, then we will be out of compliance that we didn't, offer the proper processes to others. But it's the board decision. You get to decide, but I'm trying to address it from the standpoint.
And I understand that.
No.
Okay, wait till the roll call vote, please. Roll call vote. I want a roll call vote on this. So we're addressing the amount not to exceed.
Not to exceed what?
Not correct. And see, that's just if we don't have.
That's why I said to add it.
If we hit a certain threshold, we have to go out for RFP. If we hit $50,000.
That's the answer.
So 40, there you go, 49,000. Thank you. If we get to $49,999, we will come back and ask for an extension.
So I can amend it to state that specifically. Would that be? I said I can amend it. Yeah. Dr. Pruitt Adams, is it better just to go with 49,000? If this is your recommendation.
Sure.
Okay. I would like to rescind my motion and restate. I move that the contract be amended to include amount to not exceed 49,000.
So the motion has been amended to include an amount not to exceed 49,000. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
Have a second, okay? Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, roll call vote, Shay.
No. No.
No.
I have a question, but okay. No. No.
You're voting on Miranda's.
No.
We voting for the 49,000?
No.
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 Too loud. And Ms. Jackson?
I had a question, but that's okay. You said we're voting for what's 49,000, right?
Yes.
That'll be our cap number. No, she can. No.
Yes.
That's it.
I'd like to thank the audience for your patience tonight and remaining with us until the end of the meeting.
Point of order. We now have to go back to the original motion and vote on the contract.
What a measure
Okay.
motion.
The
Because
contract.
her motion failed.
Failed, you go back.
So we're going to present now for the independent consultant position. All in favor? No, can I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Roll call, Boshe.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
With no further business to discuss, I'd like a motion for adjournment.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did not hear everybody. Yes, ma'am.